Brazil registered more than 1,200 new deaths from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, bringing the nationwide count to over 75,000. The governor of the U.S. state of Ohio has called for urgent action to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Senegalese authorities announced the resumption of international flights on Wednesday while conducting strict health protocols to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Hello, today is Thursday, July 16, from the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba. This is from the south, Ernesto Dominguez. Brazil has registered more than 1,200 new deaths from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, bringing the nationwide count to over 75,300, the country's health minister reported on Wednesday. Meanwhile, the figure of new cases has reached almost 40,000, taking its total to over 1,900,000. The southeast state of Sao Paulo, the country's most populous state, remains as the worst hit, followed by Rio de Janeiro. Brazil stays as the world's second most affected country in the world, only after the United States, both in terms of death toll and caseload. In Chile, the police forces, also known as Carabineros, repressed demonstrators who showed their support for the reform that allowed citizens to withdraw 10% of the pension fund. Followed by the approval of the bill that allows the early withdrawal of pensions, demonstrators took to the streets in several cities of the country where the Carabineros tried to block celebrations by the use of tear gas. The Chilean pension model established during the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet was one of the central reasons for the social explosion that began in October last year. And we stay in Chile, where the Chamber of Deputies approved a bill that will allow citizens to withdraw 10% anticipated pension funds. After a long dispute, the bill to reward the withdrawal of pension funds received approval with 95 votes in favor, 36 against, and 22 abstentions. However, the article proposing the creation of a collective solidarity fund to compensate those who wish to withdraw the 10% was rejected. Opposition deputies have said they will replace this indication in the Senate debate despite pressure from government deputies. Peru has named a new health minister for the second time during the COVID-19 pandemic. President Martín Vizcarra appointed on Wednesday a new health minister as part of a cabinet reshuffle in which there will change 11 of his 18 ministers. According to the Peruvian president, the new guideline of his cabinet is the economic recovery of the country. Peru is the second worst hit country by the pandemic in Latin America and the fifth worldwide, with 333,000 cases recorded. The Peruvian president Martín Vizcarra had shuffled his cabinet on Wednesday, appointing 11 new ministers, including a new health minister, of whom are men.
These are our main work guidelines at this stage: fighting the pandemic until we defeat the virus, economic recovery so that there is more work and income for all Peruvians, the improvement of the health system, education, and the closing of the wealth gap that will allow Peruvians to have better opportunities. I am sure that with this new, consistent, and renewed cabinet, we will be able to advance and complete with the course we have set ourselves.
The Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reiterated that the Venezuelan people and its government is prepared to defend its sovereignty and integrity of the country in the face of the continued attacks from the United States.
Every day they attempt to manipulate the Spaniard and the European television. I made this claim yesterday. Washington will start a brutal campaign funded by millions of dollars from the United States against Venezuela. By all means, here and there and every day, we are prepared to battle this.
Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced 279 community transmitted COVID-19 cases in the country.
En las últimas 24 horas, entonces, repito.
In the last 24 hours, 276 new cases have been reported, distributed in the following states. In the state of Zulia, 90 cases. Zulia already has 2,054 active cases, which 83 cases are imported. They are in the integral social attention pots. Then it's the capital district with 73 active cases, but in total, it already has 912 cases. Then follows Miranda, with 630 active cases, and today, 45 new cases are being reported.
Rodriguez also reported 142 new imported cases. Venezuela amounts to date 10,428 COVID-19 infections.
We also have to inform that in the last 24 hours, 142 imported cases have been registered, of which 129 entered through Colombia, 87 through the state of Apure, 41 through the state of Táchira and Zulia together, then 5 cases from Brazil. But before continue, notice that Colombia already has 3,511 cases in Venezuela, and the imported cases represent 47%, that is 4,860 cases out of 10,800.
The Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean reported on Wednesday that Latin America and the Caribbean will suffer a minus 9.1% fall in gross domestic product this year as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the report, both the external and domestic shocks have been stronger than what was foreseen last April, which led to a downward revision of the figures. Guyana is the only country that will show strong growth in the Caribbean. The negative economic impact on the region is associated with the reduction in trade, tourism, and remittances, especially from the United States and Europe. According to the report, the fall in economic activity is of such a magnitude that GDP per capita in Latin America and the Caribbean will end 2020 at a level similar to what was seen in 2010, meaning that there will be a setback of 10 years in income levels per inhabitant. And we're taking a very short break now, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The governor of the U.S. state of Ohio, Mike DeWine, has called for urgent action by all state residents to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Last week, Ohio has witnessed its highest numbers since the easing of lockdown, with more than 1,500 confirmed cases in a single day.
Reached the most critical point in our battle against the coronavirus. If all of us do not take immediate action to slow this virus down, the tragedy that we see playing out on our television screens every day in Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California may well be our reality in just a matter of weeks.
George Floyd's family has filed a lawsuit against Minneapolis police and the 4 officers charged with his death. Floyd's family alleged the officers violated Floyd's rights when they restrained him, and the city allowed a culture of excessive force, racism, and impunity to flourish in its police force.
It was not just the knee of Officer Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, but it was the knee of the entire Minneapolis Police Department on the neck of George Floyd that killed him. Now, this is an unprecedented case, and with this lawsuit, we seek to set a precedence to make it financially prohibitive that the police won't wrongfully kill marginalized people, especially black people, in the future.
Sara and Ramon work as security guards. Both tested positive for COVID-19 at the same time, but their experiences are really different. From Mexico City, our correspondent Aiza Garcia has the story.
This is the third time Sara has come in for a PCR test. She wants to know if she still has the virus. She has spent 5 weeks on the edge, isolated from her children and unable to work.
I put a plastic wrapping paper in my room so that my children would not be infected and so that I could not hug them. When I still didn't know I was positive, I isolated myself not to infect my children. Because as my fellows were positive, I isolated myself from my children. After a week, I get tested. I test positive and isolated myself.
It was during the second week of voluntary confinement when she had difficulty for breathing and had to be hospitalized in a Mexican clinic of Social Security.
They transferred me in an ambulance with all the protocols of the COVID. Being in the hospital, they put me in IV line, they put me on oxygen, and they took me to the emergency room. I was there all the time. I was face down because they told me that I had an infection in my lungs, and they put me face down so that my lungs will work well. It is the most angustiating thing I have ever been through because you are uncertain when you are going to get worse.
She recovered and walked out of the hospital on her feet, but it was her turn to see people who did not survive to tell the story.
A not very old big lady of 32 years old arrived next to me and she was already unable to breathe, and they asked her if she gave her permission to be intubated. She refused to, and about 15 minutes later she died. Then we are with that uncertainty all the time.
Ramon was also taken over by uncertainty. He presented several symptoms of COVID, and although he was not hospitalized, he remained without seeing his family for 5 weeks.
It was more than a month that I didn't see them. I didn't see my family at all, only phone calls, because I was sanitizing all the area where I touched, cleaning that. I did everything by myself.
He tells that his mood went all the way down as the weeks went by, and he continued to test positive for COVID.
With my head down, I feel that I got too close to my emotions. Yes, I get too close.
Immunologists say that the days of isolation of infected people depend on their viral load, which in some cases can last up to 28 days after being diagnosed.
It is important to be monitored to know when we stop detecting the genetic material of the virus in the upper respiratory tract. That would mean that there is no longer virus in this zone, and the infectious form would be diminished. That is to say, it would stop spreading the virus, if it no longer has the viral load in the upper respiratory tract.
In Mexico, 40% of the people studied have tested positive for COVID-19.
Aisa García, Telesur, Ciudad de México.
Irish authorities decided on Wednesday to postpone the transition to phase 4 of the country's reopening following an alarming increase in COVID-19 cases.
Today, the Cabinet agreed that the current public health measures should remain in place until the 10th of August. We have agreed that the country will now not be progressing to phase 4 of the revised roadmap for reopening society and business. The priority now must be to get that R number back below 1. By doing so, we will give ourselves the best chance possible to fully reopen our schools in late August.
As the Taoiseach has said, we're pausing proceeding with phase 4, we're postponing the reopening of the pubs, we're widening the mandatory use of face coverings, we're limiting the number of visitors we can have in our homes. We're staying at the current numbers for outdoor and indoor events.
The ruling Social Democratic Party took lead in the elections held in North Macedonia on Wednesday. Preliminary results released by the Electoral Commission show that the party secured 36% of the vote, while the Internal Macedonian Revolutionary Organization, Democratic Party for Macedonian National Unity, gained 34%. Meanwhile, the Albanian Democratic Union for Integration came third position with only 11% of the vote. The electoral authorities pointed that 94% of the ballots have been counted so far.
The will of the people have been confirmed. We have won. The citizens have come out and voted for unity and solidarity, for economical patriotism, for law and justice. The citizens have chosen a good today, a better tomorrow. The path of the future have been settled. For the rest, we said it clearly no.
The COVID-19 spread in South Africa continues to worsen as the cases of infection surpasses 30,000 on Wednesday. According to the health minister, Zweli Nkize, there was a rise of more than 12,700 cases on Wednesday to reach over 300,000. Also, there were 107 new COVID-19 deaths, raising the total to 4,453. Early this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced new restrictive measures to prevent social gatherings. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us for more. Welcome back to From the South. Senegalese authorities announced the resumption of international flights on Wednesday while conducting strict health protocols to curb the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
It's the first day, so it's a timid recovery. Today, we have 7 passenger flights and 8 cargo flights. We have set up equipment and a system to welcome passengers and make sure they are treated in coronavirus conditions. It's a timid recovery. The planes will certainly fill up in the coming days. There will be more and more of them, and we think that in the next 2 months, we will have 30% of our traffic compared to last year.
Today, to come to Senegal, we demand strict compliance with border measures, namely the wearing of masks. Everybody wears a mask. You have the physical distance, even at the seats you will rest. You have hydroalcoholic gels everywhere, even at the ATMs. When the passengers arrive, you have thermal cameras, you have the thermoflash. We are in a box where you have to feedback of the temperature, which allows us to insulate them. We have also asked by mutual agreement with the civil aviation that to arrive in Senegal, to have a PCR test that is negative through laboratories that have been cleared.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has stressed that his country has never been isolated despite the efforts of the United States. During the cabinet session on Wednesday, President Rouhani also noted that progress in the country's development will not stop. The statements came on the 5th anniversary of the signing of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or Iran nuclear deal. The Iranian president highlighted that the issues and failures of the Iran nuclear deal were the responsibility of the U.S., which withdrew from the deal in 2018, while noting the peaceful and law-abiding framework of the Iranian policy.
بیماری کووید 19 رو به سمع و نظر شما عزیزان میرسونم. تعداد بیماران شناسایی شده طی 24 ساعت گذشته بر اساس معیارهای تشخیص قطعی 2388 نفر هستند که از این تعداد 1775 نفر در مراکز
An Iranian health minister spokesperson Sima Sadalari reported over 2,300 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total number to over 260,000. She also noted that over 220,000 patients have recovered from the virus. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 death toll rose by almost 200 and now stands at more than 13,000. The chairman and CEO of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission expressed gratitude this Wednesday for the donation of diagnostic and personal protective equipment to support the COVID-19 response across the country.
I know for COVID-19 shows that no matter what, home is home. No matter where you go to, this is home. So what the Commission is doing is working with every Nigerian in the diaspora to build a country of our dreams. At the end of the day, here's where you want to return to. So thank you for doing this for your country. We urge others to do the same thing, and we thank those who have done before you and those who will be doing after you. And for the Pharmaceutical Society, we let you know that even after COVID-19, there's so much you can do with Nigeria, with the Ministry of Health. You know, we have some partnerships with you. So we look forward to more of this, you know, and it only shows that whether you're a Nigerian at home or you're a Nigerian in the diaspora, we need to work together to build the best country.
In Kenyan health authorities confirmed 461 new COVID-19 cases on Wednesday, bringing the total number to over 11,000. Of the new cases, 432 were Kenyans and 29 were foreigners. Meanwhile, the death toll stands at 209. Chief Administrative Secretary Dr. Rashid Aman noted that 51 patients have been discharged from hospitals, bringing the total number of recovered patients to over 3,000. A mission of envoys was sent to Mali on behalf of the Economic Community of West African States on Wednesday in order to mediate in the ongoing political crisis. Led by former Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, the envoy mission is set with the task of mediating political differences between Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and opposition movements demanding his resignation. Demonstrations recently broke out across Mali, criticizing the residents' handling of a jihadist insurgency that has been ongoing for 8 years and has led to thousands of deaths and displacements.
With your cooperation and the good people of Mali who will want to solve the problems, not about individuals, but about the collective interests of the country, I think we'll have a way of resolving the issues. This must be man-made issues, not earthquakes that we have no control. So I believe we'll be able to get something done. You will work with us and we'll succeed.
With the will of the President of the Republic, my will as head of the government, the will of the ECOWAS delegates, I am hopeful that this political process will lead us to a solution and a way out of the crisis for the well-being of all the people of Mali.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Thank you for watching.